Evening everyone, and welcome to today's session on Python programming. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Sakshi.
Ma'am, I have given you the rights so that you can share your screen.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Welcome.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, visible.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Let's start today's session. Okay. So, in the last class, we discussed about inheritance, and in particular, we discussed about how do we inherit the why we should use inheritance, what is the need of inheritance. Okay, so if part of the work has already been done and we need to redo the same work and add some more work to it, right? For example, we have discussed some example like a class person is already exist, right? And with its required attributes and methods, then if I need to develop one more class, for example employee class, and in that employee class if I need to include the again the same attribute, few attributes are new attributes and methods are new methods, whereas rest of the methods are same attributes and methods which have already been implemented in person class, right? So we can propose in employee only, we can add all the attributes of person class as well as employee class and methods of person class and employee class, and we can develop the class, right? But the problem here is it takes more time because because we need to add more code, right? And already exists, some code already exists, so it is better, rather preferred to use the existing code, right? So this is known as reusability. So the code already exists, so what I need to do is I just need to use the existing code and add some more features which are new to the class, right? So that is nothing but inheritance, right? Why we should use? We want to reduce the time, and as well as we want to reduce the development time basically, and reuse the existing code. Right? So for that sake, or if class person exists in our project or in other project, if it exists, then what we can do is we can extend that particular class itself in the subclass, right? Extend is nothing but we are inheriting properties of the superclass in the subclass, right? So whenever we create object for the subclass, then that particular object can access the methods attributes of the subclass as well as method and attribute of the superclass, right? So we discussed how do we create a class, how to instantiate an object of that particular class. We have also seen how do we create class, superclass, and how do I extend properties of that superclass in my subclass, right? And how do I instantiate object for the subclass? How do I access methods of the subclass? How do I access methods of the superclass with the help of object of the subclass? Okay, and how do we create the constructor? How do I write the constructor for the base class? How do I add the constructor for the derived class? And because the same name exists, right? Init name we use to create constructor for the superclass, to create the constructor for the subclass as well, correct? So here, how do I call the superclass constructor with the help of object, right? Object of the subclass. This also we have done, right? So which method we have used to call the superclass constructor? We have used the method that is known as super method, right? To call the superclass constructor. This is what we have done till now. So let us continue the last session, that is how do we override the superclass method. Okay, so what we mean by overriding the superclass method. Suppose suppose a class exists, name of the class is person. Okay, and person, inside this person class I have written one method called called as print details. Fine. So, and we have taken inside this person class I have taken one attribute as name. Okay, and what this print details will do, print details is a method of person class. Okay, so what this print details will be doing, it simply displays, it simply display the content of the attributes, right? Content of the person. Here content or attribute of the person, only one attribute we have used. Okay, so that is nothing but name of a person, right? So I have a class. Inside this particular class I have taken one variable, okay, that is attribute known as name, and I have defined one method inside person class that is known as print details. What this print details is doing, print details simply display the name of a person, right? Why only name of a person? Because I've only considered one attribute. Okay, if we have considered the other attribute as age, then this print details can print the information or display the information of name as well as age of a person, correct? But simply for simplicity I have only considered one thing, that is name, right? Let us take the employee class. Employee class is the derived class. That means it is inheriting properties from the base class, that is person. Correct? Now, employee class will have its own attributes. Okay, employee class is able to access, because this is derived class, so this class is able to access attributes of its own class, whatever attributes that I will define inside this particular class, whatever methods that I will define inside this particular employee class, I am able to access the attributes as well as methods of employee class when we instantiate the object. Okay, when we instantiate employee class. Apart from that, I can also access attributes and methods of person class, correct? So let us take an example. Here, experience. Okay, and even you can consider, if you wish, you can consider salary. If you wish, you can add other details, right? So I have taken only experience, right? So let us take experience is here is an attribute, and I want to print the details of employee. Okay. So what this, how do I access content of employee class? That means how do I access attributes of employee class, and how do I access the methods of the employee class? Okay, for that sake, what I need to do is I need to instantiate the object. Okay, I need to create an object of the employee class. With the object, I can be able to access experience and print details. One thing to note, I can access experience print details, that means content of employee class, as well as I can access name as well as display name with the help of object of the employee class. This I will illustrate with the help of program as well, but try to understand first here what we mean by overriding of the superclass method. Overriding is, I have written one method inside the base class called person. I've written a method called print details. Fine. So inside employee class, I am again writing print details. Okay. So what was my intention writing the same name? I will let you know. Here I want to print details of the employee. Okay, here employee has actually one attribute. Explicitly we have written the attribute for the employee class, that is experience, but it also has one more attribute which has been inherited from its parent class, that is name. That means I want to print the details of employee, its experience, his or her experience, as well as name, right? So simply create the object and try to access the employee object and try to access employee object dot experience, employee object dot name. You can access, that is one method. The second method is with the help of the second way is to use or to call the methods. Okay, employee object dot name of the object dot print details. So what this will do, it simply prints the details of the employee class. Okay, so inside this particular print details, I might have written, I've just printed the experience. Okay, so how do I call now? How do I display the name? Okay, for that I need to call this particular method of the person class. Fine. So how do I, this particular method can be called using object name dot print details. But I need to display the name of the employee, name of a person as well. Okay. So for that sake, how do I call this particular print details? I can call this print detail with the help of super method again. Okay. So what the super method does, suppose whenever you have written the constructor in the subclass and you need to call the superclass constructor, then again use the super method to call the superclass constructor. As well as whenever you have written method name print details, same name as that of the base class method, then to call the superclass method, it's very easy. Object name dot name of the method. With this you can call the content of, or you can call this particular method. How do I call this method? You can call with the help of super method. Okay, we will illustrate that. Here is a function, here is a class, person class. Okay, and in this I've written one constructor. Okay, just to, I've taken only one attribute, as I explained, only one variable to define person class. Okay, that is name. Okay, like this you can have n number of variables, that is not an issue. I have written one more function just to print the details of this particular person. What type of attributes that I have considered for person? I just want to print the details of those attributes or variables. So here variable is only one, that is name. So here what I am printing the name of the person. And later on, I just want to make sure that I am able to execute this print details method of the person class. So for that sake, I've written this statement, that is we are inside the base class, right? Person is a base class, right? So let me execute this. Okay, let's continue. In this, what we have written, we have written one more class known as employee class, and this particular employee class is deriving the properties of the person class. Hence in parenthesis I have written name of the base class. Okay, employee class, this means employee class is inheriting properties of the person class. Fine. So we do have two methods. Okay, one is constructor method, the other one is again print details class we have override it. Okay, overwriting is nothing but we are writing the same function signature inside the derived class. Okay, as that of the base class, right? So here you can check the function signature of this class, person class, and function signature of the derived class. It remains same. Okay, so here print details, and inside this particular print details, because I've overridden the base class print details. So what I've done, I have called, as I want to display experience as well as name of the person, name of the employee. So for that sake, what I'm doing, I'm calling here super method. You note here super method dot print details. So using this particular call, it calls the base class method. Okay, even though base class method and derived class methods are same, okay, but I can access the base class method inside this particular print details method with the help of super method. Okay, super method dot print details. What it will call? It will call this base class method, right? So after when it calls base class method, you know it will simply print a name as well as it simply prints the next statement that is inside base class. After this particular statement, it prints experience, and later on at the end it will print that inside the derived class. We just wanted to check the flow, how it works. So for that sake, I've written inside base class and inside derived class, but these are not mandatory, right? Let me execute it. Okay, and afterwards what I've written, I have created an object. That means we have instantiated an object with the help of name of the with the help of class. Here class name is employee, and I need to pass two arguments here. The first argument is name. The second argument here is simply it shows years of experience that this particular employee has. Okay, number of years of experience. So when you create even object, okay, even is equals to employee Shreya and comma 33. What it will do, actually what it will do, what this statement will do, it calls the employee class constructor. Employee class constructor is nothing but this. Okay, so what it will do, it calls the base class constructor, right? So inside base class constructor, what are we doing? We are simply assigning the name to whatever parameter value that has been assigned. Okay, so name will be assigned with past value, and later on after this statement, what it will do is it will simply assign self dot experience is equals to experience. That means even name is equals to name Shreya, and even's experience is 33, right? Like this, a constructor got called. First constructor of the derived class called, and later on inside the derived class constructor, we called the super class constructor or base class constructor. Inside this base class constructor, name of the variable value has been initialized. Okay, not name of the variable value, name for the object. Okay, object name has got initialized, and later on objects experience has got initialized in this particular statement of the derived class constructor. And later on in the next statement, what we have done in this, after creation of object even with the same object, what are we trying to do? We are trying to call the print details. We call the print details. So even dot print details, what it will call? It will call derived class method. So inside this derived class method, we have called the base class print details method. Okay, so with the help of this super method, we called print details of the base class. So these two statement would get executed, and later on it will print experience, and it simply prints inside the derived class. Okay. So let us create an object and later on call the print details. So you can check this is the, and these two statements are result of print details of this. Okay, why this has got executed? Because of this particular statement. Okay, so this, and later on experience got printed, and afterwards inside derived got printed, right? Like this, if we have overrided the method inside derived class, I can call that method, okay, of the base class by using this super method, right? So let us move to the next section. That is, till now what we have done, we have executed single level inheritance. That means I have a class A, and from this A, I want to inherit some properties to class B. Okay, so for example, person class, we have inherited name and print details to employee class. This is what we have done. Okay, there are many real-time applications where I may need to inherit for more than one level. That means I may need to create a class, and I may need to inherit properties of this class in some other class. That means class B will inherit properties of the class A, and later on there may be some requirement where I may need to create one more class, class C. That class C may further inherit properties of the class B. Okay, so like this, I can have, if inheritance, we need to inherit properties in more than one level. Okay, this is known as single level inheritance, because only one level we have called, we are inheriting the properties. In B class, we are going to inherit properties of the A class. Here we are going to have more than one level. Okay, so for that sake, the name is multi-level inheritance. Okay, class B is inheriting properties of the class A. Class C is further inheriting properties of the class B. Like this, you can inherit this class properties in some other class. Okay, for illustration, I have taken only two level. Okay, that is class A will inherit properties in class B. Class B will inherit properties inside class C. So let us try to illustrate with some code. Okay, let us see the example. Here I have taken a class named as class A. This class A has method, that is constructor, and inside this particular constructor, I have taken two parameters. The first parameter is self parameter, which is reference to the object itself. The second one is name one. Okay, so self dot a equals to name one will get assigned. Okay, that means objects A will assign the value of name one, and later on I am simply printing the content. Okay, class self A called. Okay, that means class I want to print, and the name of the I just wanted to check with which name we are instantiating this particular class with, right? So I have given that attribute as A. Okay, A is equals to name one. So class, whatever value that you are providing, that value will be called. Okay, and here is a method to display the content again. Class A method, you can write down class A method called. Okay, I might not be using display methods inside for this illustration, but still, just for completion, I have written one constructor and one method. right? So next is we have inherited properties. Okay, we have created a derived class, that is class B, which is inheriting properties from the base class, that is class A. That means class B is inheriting properties of the class A, right? So inside this again I have written one constructor. Okay, inside this particular constructor it is taking three parameters this time: the reference to the object self, name1, okay, and name2. Okay, with the help of name2 I will initialize b's class b's variable. Okay, okay, class b's variable name is b, that will be initialized with name2, and before that what it will call, it will call the constructor of the base class, that is class A, right? So, with the help of again super method, we called the name of the constructor of the class A. Okay, when we call constructor of the class A, what happens? It will execute these two statements. It simply assigns name1 to A, and it will print class whatever name1 is there, that caught. Okay, and afterwards name2 is assigned to class B, and afterwards it simply prints class B, class self dot B. Okay, whatever name2 content of name2 will get printed because it has been assigned, B has been assigned with a value name2, and later on called will be printed. Okay, and here we have created one more class as class C. Class C is inheriting properties of the class B. Okay, and we have written the constructor for inside the class C, right? So class C's constructor is accepting four parameters. The first one is self, the second one is name1, third one is name2, and then last one is name3. Okay, so here I need to call superclass constructor, right? So I called the superclass constructor, class B's constructor will get called, and required values will be passed to class B's constructor. Okay, and afterwards class C, inside class C I have one attribute that is variable that will get initialized with name3. Okay, and later on it simply prints this is just for the illustration how it has been assigned the value, and later on we are just for illustration purpose we are printing that, right? Let me execute these three classes, class A, B, and C. Okay, and later on at the end I have created one object objc, that is object of the class C, right? We using this class C I am creating the object, that means class C's object will get created, and I am passing A, B, and C, right, as a string, just to assign class A as A, class A's variable A as with the value A, class B's variable with value B, and class C's variable with value C. That is why I passed A, B, C. Okay, these three will be passed and they will be assigned to name1, name2, and name3. Here, okay, objc is implicitly passed to this self. Okay, self is referring to objc only, right? And later on when we execute this, what happens? When we execute this, it implicitly called the constructor of the class C. Class C's constructor got called, and further with the help of this particular super method, class B's constructor will get called, and with the help of again super method, class A's constructor will get called. Class A's constructor will get called. Okay, and later on self dot A will be assigned with name1. Name1 value is A. So here class A called will be printed, and later on it will move to this B equals to name2. Name2 here is B. So print class B called will be printed, and later on Later on, C will be assigned with C as a string, and print this print statement. What it will print? It prints class C got. Okay. So let us execute this. See here, this is what we wanted, right? So whenever I create an object and the class of the derived class constructor will should get called, and based on this super method, its constructor, its base class constructor will call. Okay, so class B's constructor would call, and inside class B's constructor, I have written super, so again its base class would get called. Okay, so for that sake, we will get class A called, class B called, and class C called will get printed. Okay, like this, this is just the illustration of multi-level inheritance. Okay, we do have one more important type of inheritance that also we will cover in this class. So here we do have multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance is we do have a class named class C. Class C is inheriting properties from more than one class. Here that is class A and class B. That means class C will inherit properties from class A as well as properties from class B. Right? So let us try to do the illustration part of this. Here I've written a class A. Inside this particular class A, what we have written, we have written the constructor for class A. Okay, so I've simply written define, okay, underscore underscore init underscore underscore self. Okay, this itself indicates the constructor method. Okay, so constructor has been defined. Inside this particular constructor method, we have printed class A called, and I have called here super dot init. Okay, so what it would call? It calls the superclass of class A. Superclass of class A is the default one, that is object. Okay, so nothing is printed inside this, but no print statement exists inside this particular superclass of object. Hence, nothing will get printed. Okay, in a similar way, we do have created one more independent class because I need to create two classes. One is A, other one is B, and other one is B, and C should inherit properties from both the classes, from this class and from this class, right? So I need to create two independent classes, class A and as well as class B. Right? So inside this particular class B, we do have a constructor, as again created a constructor in a similar fashion. And here uh, these two statements have interchanged. You can swap, no issues in that. So here it calls the objects constructor, that is class B's super constructor. And you know, all classes have the super class, that is object. Okay, if you this is optional part. If you want, you can skip this as well. Okay, so super class constructor called, and later on with the help of super method again, and later on I just wanted to print we are in which particular class constructor, hence class B called. Okay, and later on what we have written here, we have written class C. And note here, class C is inheriting properties from more than two classes, right? So class B and class A, right? So because it is inheriting from more than one class, so suppose it is inheriting from one more class, that is class D, then I need to write class B. I need to mention all classes from which it is inheriting. From which it is inheriting. For example, class B, class C, class D, and so on. But in this, for this illustration, class C is inheriting only from two classes. So I've written class B followed by class A, right? And inside class C's constructor, what we have written name of the like constructor definition, that is signature, and followed by function body. Okay, inside this what I have written, super underscore dot underscore underscore init, again underscore underscore, right? And that means super class constructor would get called, and later on I have printed class C called. Okay, though we have not used display A, display B, and display C, you can always call with the help of objects of class C, you can call these functions, right? These methods, that is possible. And at the end, what we have done, we have simply created one object known as objc. Okay, with the help of objc equals to class C. That means we have created object named as objc, of which class this object belongs to class C, right? So let us execute it. See here, these would get printed, right? So like this constructor, like class C, okay, this class is able to inherit properties from both the more than one class. Till now we have seen single level inheritance, but multiple inheritance is also possible. That means class C can inherit properties from class B and class A. What if class C also wants to call the methods? Okay, the other methods. This was just to instantiate or how constructor got called. Okay, what if with the help of objc it we wanted to execute or we wanted to call the methods, all three methods. For example, display A, objc dot display B, and objc display C. Okay, okay. I have anyhow I've written over here also in comments. So that is also possible. Okay, okay. It's in uppercase. See, these three statements are resultant of constructor method called, and these three statements are uh, result of these methods, right? So let us differentiate them. See here, this when we instantiate an object, class C's method, class C's constructor called will get called, and further because we have called the super method, with the help of super method it calls the respective classes, right? Because of this it calls the superclass of class C. So what are the superclass of class C? Class B and class C, right? And afterwards what are we trying to print? We are trying to print the or we are trying to call the uh, display A method, display B, and display C, right? So all three methods will be called. How? With the help of object C, because in object C we have inherited properties of class B as well as class C. So writing, actually it's class display A is inside class A, display B is inside class B, and display C is inside class C, as you can see. But as we have inherited properties of class B and class A inside class C, so class C's object will be able to access members of class B and as well as class A. Here methods were right. So like this, we are able to execute the constructors as well as the methods. Okay, that means class C is able to access the members of class B and as well as class A. Members means here attributes as well as methods, right? So with this, I will stop the session, right? So we can end the session here. If any doubts in today's session, you may ask. If any sort of queries are there, you may ask now.
I have given you the rights. If you have any doubt, you can ask ma'am about that. You can unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I want to ask this question regarding the superclass which was first created about employment.
Can you repeat your query, please?
The query that I want to ask it deals with the first superclass that was created about employment.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was running the class, but as along the way, as you were just trying to explain how the statements are written, but I'm having an error which indicates that my superclass object has no attribute experience. Can you go back to that method so that I can that class so that I can try to
Okay. All right.
debug the
Wait.
yeah.
Okay. This one, right?
Yeah, that's one.
Okay.
So it indicates that I'm having an error called object has no attribute experience.
You are having an error.
Yes.
So you might not have created this. And you are still in print details. You might be printing the details set.experience, but actually you might not have done this in constructor method.
Okay.
You might not have created any variable, and you are trying to access that variable. So for that sake, you are facing that error. Okay.
Okay.
Correct it.
Yeah. All right, now. Thank you.
Okay. Any other doubt? Okay.
So, just one question about inheritance.
Right.
In the first example, you were showing that class B was inheriting from A and C was inheriting from B.
Right.
So class C, since it's inheriting from B, it's inheriting also A, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was my question.
we were having we have seen two types of inheritance in today's session, right? One is multi-level inheritance, the other one is multiple inheritance, right? In multi-level inheritance, there exists more than one level of inheritance. C is inheriting properties from B, whereas B itself has inherited properties from A.
So
Right?
that makes C inheriting also A, since it is inheriting B and B from A. Is that correct?
Can you repeat your query?
Yeah, sure. So C is inheriting from B, and B
Right.
is inheriting from A. So
Right.
since B is inheriting from A, C is also inheriting A, because it is inheriting B.
C is inheriting properties from B as well as from A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because in B already B has inherited properties from A, right? In B, we do have properties of B as well as properties of A. So C is inheriting from B. That means indirectly it is inherited properties of B as well as properties of A.
Yeah. Okay. That was my understanding. Thank you. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Okay, any other query?
Any other one?
What is the difference between multi-level inheritance and multiple inheritance?
Okay. In multiple inheritance, derived class is inheriting properties from more than one class in it. Okay. And those classes are independent classes, right? And whereas in multi-level inheritance, one is inherited properties from, for example, second class is inherited properties from the first class, whereas third class inheriting properties from the second class. Okay. We have seen the example. If class B is inheriting from class A and class C is inheriting from class B, that is known as multi-level inheritance. Whereas if I create two different classes, for example, class A, class B, there is no relationship between these two classes. Class A and class B are independent classes, and class C is inheriting from both the class. Right? So that is an example of multiple inheritance.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
Anybody else? Ma'am, can we end the session now?
Yes, Sakshi, we can.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, everyone. See in the chat window, you'll find the attendance link over there. So do submit your attendance within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you.